Thanks for joining us for 5 on 5. I'm Joe Sullivan, pleased to be joined today by Congresswoman Val Hoyle. Congresswoman, thanks for taking time from Washington, D.C.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to be on this program, and thank you for continuing to broadcast local news. It's critical.
I appreciate that. What are your thoughts on the new Trump tariffs?
So my background is international trade, and I'm very familiar. Oregon is an export-dependent state. Now, let me be clear. I was not a proponent of NAFTA. I was not a proponent of the TPP, which were these supposed free trade agreements. I believe that we should put American workers first. I believe we should bring manufacturing back. That's not what these tariffs are doing. The erratic nature that things are moving through, I've talked to a number of business people that have said what they want is certainty. I talked to a manufacturer, an American manufacturer, who is moving because of these tariffs, moving their production to Mexico so they can have lower labor to make up for the tariff. I've talked to winery owners. The wine industry is so important to Oregon. 40% of our market is Canada, and overnight they lost all of those sales. So for our farmers, for our manufacturers, these things are devastating. And we also rely on parts from other countries to build American goods. So if we're going to onshore manufacturing, we should use tariffs in a strategic way, and also we should ensure that we're investing in domestic manufacturing and that infrastructure. The shock that this is going to put out to our country is going to be bad for workers, bad for consumers, bad for our American exporters. And I'm really, really concerned about what it's going to do to Oregon's economy.
In October, you voted against the Fixed Art Forests Act, and then in January, you voted for it. Why the change?
Because there were critical things that I asked for to be included in that bill. One was the permanent increase in wildland firefighter pay. Without that, we lose 30 to 50% of our wildland firefighters. There also were a number of recommendations from the Wildland Firefighting Commission that were not included in that bill the first time. And there were a number of provisions for our tribal communities. I'm working very closely with both Democrats, Republicans, and tribal nations on tribal co-management of our federal forests, a plan going forward. I think that as we've seen so many of our Forest Service staff cut that do critical work, we need to figure out how to fill that gap. I think that our tribal nations who have been managing our forests and our lands for millennia are a really, really good partner in that effort and can help us prevent wildfire while also ensuring that these federal lands don't get sold off to the highest bidder. So fundamentally, the bill had fixes this time, not everything that I wanted. There were certainly issues in what they're calling, lawsuit reform that I did not agree with, but we got what we could. And because I had provisions that were put in that bill that I asked for, I voted for it. And I think we need to walk away from the old timber wars mentality of cut everything or don't cut anything. Our climate change and the conditions that we have and what's happening to our federal workforce means we have to approach things differently in a bipartisan way. And that's why I voted for it.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with part 2 of our 5 on 5. Stay with us. Welcome back to part 2 of our 5 on 5 with Congresswoman Val Hoyle. I'm Joe Sullivan. Congresswoman, what do you think about President Trump's effort to get rid of the Department of Education?
I've heard my Republican colleagues and, the Trump administration talk about how much they're going to save by getting rid of this, of this agency. First of all, Congress created it. They should not be ignoring the power of Congress, the constitutionally directed, separate and equal branch of government in making these policies. Second of all, we still need the services that the Department of Education provides. So when they say we're saving all the money that we used to put in this agency, the fact of the matter is it's going to hurt the most vulnerable. It is going to hurt our kids with, that need special education. It is going to hurt our rural school districts that need the kind of support that come from the Department of Education, the training our teachers, all of these things. The fact of the matter is this isn't going to save us money. This isn't about government efficiency, which everybody should want. This is about a shell game where they're shutting down an agency, they're rolling over Congress and trying to do everything by an executive order. Again, not how the founders of this country meant for our government to work. And people are going to suffer, and they're going to suffer badly.
We have about 30 seconds left. Is there anything you'd like our viewers to know about?
I think the key thing is we want to hear from people what these indiscriminate cuts for federal government, how they're affecting them. For instance, in the 4 National Weather Service offices, there have been a 25 to 60% cut in staff, which will impact our ability to fight wildfires, to operate our tsunami warning systems, keeping our fishermen and coastal communities safe. Bottom line is we want to hear from federal workers. We want to hear stories about the impacts, because when we're able to bring those things to the administration and point out the real effects, we've been actually able to get some changes made. And fundamentally, I am going to fight to do what I was elected to do, which is to use the power as a person in Congress, as a separate and equal branch in government, to keep my voice heard and be part of the system of checks and balances that was intended by our Constitution.
Congresswoman Hoyle, thank you so much for taking time from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more local news.